We are live on MCEO Talk, Episode 3. I'm your host, Vincenzo Landino. Joining me tonight, I have two guests, special guests. A good friend of mine, Chris McCoolin, CLYW, and you're gonna learn a little bit more about that and what Chris does. And Amy Schmitzhauer, you know her better as Savvy Sexy Social. She's gonna give us a little bit of insights in her world. Without further ado, actually before we go into that, I want to let everyone know that's watching and everybody that's joining us on the Twitter chat, we do have a Twitter chat and a live hangout going on. The questions will be different tonight, so there will be different questions for our guests than you will be getting on the Twitter chat. Feel free to answer either. I figured this way we have a little more of a conversation with our guests. Without further ado, Amy.
Hi.
Tell us a little bit about you. How are you?
Great. I'm awesome. I'm still kicking. It's 9 o'clock Eastern. I don't usually do this. At this point, I'm like usually putting yoga pants on and like brushing my teeth, getting ready to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. But no, I'm here for you, and I'm excited about it. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. I appreciate
yeah, you said I have a blog, SavvySexySocial.com. We empower brands to embrace their amazing personality and share it with the world. And so I do that through video content marketing and hopefully do a good job of it and just keep people motivated, because the grind of having to market yourself all the time when you're a business owner is really important, but you just got to keep going. So that's what I spend my daytime doing.
Excellent, and we will get to know a little bit more about that shortly. Chris McCoolin, my buddy from Canada, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Pleasure to have you on, by the way. I'm so glad. You know, you're getting so popular now. You're on like Brian Kramer, and you're doing all these other things. So tell us, introduce yourself to the rest of the crowd.
Well, my name's Chris McCoolin. I'm from Canada, Edmonton, Alberta. I'm a mechanical engineer, and I worked in the oil industry for, 8-9 years, and I kind of accidentally turned my yo-yo hobby into, I guess, one of the top yo-yo brands in the world.
Oh, just in the world, just to clarify, just in the world.
Just,
okay, got it.
Just one of the top.
Just want to make sure I write that down, just to, nip it down a little bit.
Yeah, Amy, I didn't know there was more yo-yo brands besides like Dunkin' Yo-Yos. And
like, what's the competition on Mars? Like, you think like the yo-yo thing's picking up over there? Like, that's so cool. Like, I feel like the weirdo on the show today.
No, my man Chris here, designing these fantastic yo-yos. I mean, I've seen some tricks, Chris. I'm going to have you do some tricks later on in the show.
Okay.
And you can wow our viewers, because I want as many people to see how cool you are. And I need Amy to see how cool you are, because she hasn't seen your tricks yet.
I haven't. I don't know anything about tricks.
This is what they kind of look like now.
Ooh.
Check out Chris's yo-yos. Cool stuff.
So this is like high performance.
Legitness in the yoga.
Those are legit yo-yos. So actually, talking about yo-yos, Chris, let's talk about that transition from engineering. You went to designing yo-yos. And not only engineering, you were mechanical engineering in the oil industry. That's as old school could get. I don't know how much of a millennial mindset we can get there. If you can you compare and contrast working with that old school mentality with now you're marketing to a completely younger generation and you're working with these young kids? I mean, I know this because I know you, but you work with some of the top yo-yo performers in the world. Am I correct?
Yes, we sponsor the U.S. national champion and
the Mars champion too, correct?
Yeah. Canadian national champions.
So tell us how that transition has gone. If you can kind of compare that old school mindset with now what you're doing in social and utilizing social and marketing to the younger generation.
Yeah, it's totally different. Like when I worked in mechanical engineering, I worked in a cubicle farm, so it was, all of the younger engineers, they worked in their own little area, and then all of the older managers and senior people, they all were around the perimeter in offices, and they ate lunch together, they had boardroom meetings together, and we were just like the young guys that might have got some information sent down to us. You had to like really hustle on your projects to kind of get the recognition for what you're doing. So I was one of those guys. So I was always hustling. I was always, showing initiative, going above and beyond, and I knew how to like move up within the company. But a lot of the times it was just, you're just a number, and it was
Yeah, being a number.
Yeah.
I think many of us have been in the cubicle farm and have worked in, an underappreciated role before. I know I have, and it's not fun. It's not fun at all.
Yeah.
What are you doing now to market to these young kids, now you're working with young kids, going into it, hey, I'm a mechanical engineer, and now all of a sudden I'm making yo-yos. Come, let me sponsor you. How did that transition? How did that happen?
Well, with the yo-yoing, it's a lot of it's just looking at influencers in the industry and what motivates them as well. And for a lot of these kids, it's not money. It's they want the fame, or they want to get appreciated. They want to be involved in the business. They want to help grow something together. And previously it was you work your butt off so you can get the raise and extra money. So, but yeah, marketing to kids, it's totally different. Like it's not marketing at all. Like we can't like do traditional marketing to them. It's all like mostly community building, community involvement, including people and being transparent. So that's been
what's working for you to the young kids? I know that you've had pretty good success with Snapchat. What how did you get into that? How did you figure out that Snapchat was the way to go for you?
It's just where the kids were. A lot of our team members, like, they'd go to contests and they'd be snapping each other, or you'd see some snaps on Instagram or Facebook. So I knew it was happening, and I knew there was a lot of kids on Snapchat. So then I wanted to try it out and try something different. And I kept reading about it, being involved in in the social media industry, and hearing great things from like Nick Cicero from Del Mondo, and and just the fun things that you can do with Snapchat. So we just started. We made a fun little Snapchat logo, and we just advertised that to everyone that, hey, we're on Snapchat, and the people came, and it's intense. Like,
yeah, you've got some really yours. If you're not checking out Chris, we have to get a link out there to everybody. But if you haven't seen some of Chris's Snapchats, or you don't follow him, I highly suggest you follow Chris and his brand. We'll get the links out there on the Twitter chat portion. But some really cool stuff, and I admire what you're doing. No, with video.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, with video on Facebook's been huge for us. That's been amazing. But yeah, with Snapchat, I really love the one-to-one like engagement we're getting. It's a lot like texting, adding the fun layer of silliness to it with drawings and stuff. But just having a one-to-one engagement, like I've never seen that before in any other social channels. Like it's blowing my mind. Just how I can connect with these people. Like they're sharing their collections with me, they're sharing stories with me, like, and it's been amazing.
Yeah. Now we have Amy, who is a YouTube phenom. And Amy.
That's a new one. That one.
Hey.
I gotta write that down. Hold on.
Write it down, because it's true. So Amy is using YouTube as a channel of choice. Amy, I would say YouTube is more of a broadcast channel. You can fight me on that one, or argue with me if you think I'm wrong, but I think it's more of a broadcast channel, whereas Snapchat, and we've seen the Meerkats of the world, are engagement channels. Video is not new. Video's been around for many, many years. It's very much an old media. How are you using those old school mentalities and utilizing those strategies to work in your videos today? Are you even using old school mentality or old school strategies at all in your videos?
Well, the word broadcast is actually sort of in the mission statement or the mantra really for YouTube, so it was a good choice of words. But I think in the way that you're explaining it, I have to just fundamentally disagree. A lot of, yes, it is a great way to broadcast yourself, but so is Snapchat. I mean, quite frankly, to sort of give you the Snapchat side of the argument, I don't want individual messages from people, so I actually don't have that as an option, because there are actually friends of mine that will send me stuff and I want to make sure that I do get those, so I don't have like the return messages turned on. Is that a good decision? Is it not? I think that that's something you could argue as like maybe I'm missing out there on that one-to-one engagement, but I also have my outlets where I have let my audience know where that is an option for me, and the audience I'm targeting is on Snapchat, but it's not necessarily in the way of how we usually talk about things and do things and talk about business, so they're more inclined to reach out to me on Twitter or directly through email. I have an open email policy. So there's that sort of the broadcast argument, because quite frankly, Snapchat is me just being a goofball and not listening to anybody else. But YouTube is kind of different, and in terms of old school mentalities, the example I've been using lately in terms of talking to people when they're building out a content strategy for YouTube is, like, I watch Scandal, I know it's going to be on Thursday nights, and Olivia Pope's going to show up, save the day, even if she's a little broken, and have an amazing Prada bag. And that's the mentality I want you to have when you're making YouTube content. You have to be the reliable, somewhat predictable content that people love to love, and they get a pleasant surprise every time they're there. So that's the strategy that I bring in with my YouTube content, but the reason it's different and why TV is trying to take advantage of this as well is that YouTube is not only a content opportunity, but it is a social platform. And if you treat the comments like you want it to be a nice place, and you actually show up there and have the conversations with people and don't just drop the mic with your video content, my comment sections are not that bad of a place to be in. So when people tend to get really scared of that and they stay away from it altogether and they're like, I'm just not going to look at it, that's a mistake, because YouTube viewers can be so rabid and loyal that if you just have the conversation with them there, it can be really awesome. So bringing in the old school mentality of why TV works, but also understanding the context of the platform and then engaging, which is what obviously TV is now trying to do with hashtags and please tweet with the stars while the show is on live, getting people to watch live. They're trying to pull that aspect of it when it's built into YouTube.
I think you have such great insights there, and looking at it, the consistency. So YouTube is personally, I haven't used YouTube at all because I can't not that I can't, I know I can if I put my mind to it, but I haven't been able to have that consistency. So YouTube scares the crap out of me because I can't have the consistency. And I mean, you brought up such great points. And
I think that, and the consistency, it can mean a lot of different things. There are plenty of extremely successful channels that do, movie production quality content. So, like a channel that spoofs major productions like Harry Potter, right? They're not going to post more than one video maybe a quarter or every couple of months, but their audience understands that that length of time is important for the quality of the content. You set expectations, and that's what people have a hard time doing. It's not about picking the days of the week, it's just about setting the expectations, because if you want your audience to be loyal, you have to be loyal to them too, and really just setting yourself up for success and not in a position of failure. I've seen so many people say, I'm going to do this 7 days a week, I'm going to do this 5 days a week, and they fail because that's a very high bar. And when you don't have an audience to begin with, it's really lonely. So you want to start small and grow and do something that's feasible for your time, but something you can do to be loyal to your audience.
And for those of you out there watching this and on our Twitter chat as well, Amy does have courses. I actually downloaded her video course today on how to create a professional YouTube channel, and it's a video course. Sign up for her newsletter. It's not a bad thing to do. And she promises not to kill your email inbox with spam. So
no, I just email you and tell you what's happening in my marketing lifestyle and what you can learn from it. So it's a great little journey. It's
a conversation. It's a conversation with Amy, and she is there to help. So this is going to go out to the two of you, but I really would like to know, how do you think you can marry? And I'm going to ask it for the workplace, but I know you're both not in the traditional workplace. How do you marry the two when you have two diabolically opposed mindsets? How on earth do you get the two of them to blend together? In you can both, whoever wants to go here, Chris, Wyatt. How do you meld those mindsets?
Oh, I think through having the open conversations and including people in the high level conversations as well. Like I have I used to have 2 employees, and they thrived on that and being involved. Well, even I could just use my team for an example. We have like 21 kids that we sponsor.
Wow.
And they thrive on being involved in making decisions for the brand, or helping out in any way they can with promoting things. So we try to make sure that when we're having like these closed door conversations or about new products we're developing, we need to be including our team more in those conversations to make them feel more important and involved and appreciated. So
and that's very much the millennial mindset, is like being involved at every level. That's our generation. That's how we work. We want to be involved in all the decision making, even if we're not necessarily the ones making the decision. We very much want to know what's going on. I know that myself, if I don't feel empowered, I don't feel like I'm worth anything.
Yeah,
and that's the old school mentality. It is. Go ahead, Amy. Yeah. You look like you want to jump in there.
No, I think that empowerment is the right word, and this demographic, I can't say enough good things about it, because even just the city where I'm from, this demographic is extremely key in continuing to grow our own brand as a city. But it's the sense of ownership that we all really want to have in everything that we do, which is why we're reading blogs about waking up earlier and getting the most out of every day, and why we're just young transitionals choosing the city that they want to move to. What is the compelling reason for that in terms of opportunity, accessibility, affordability? These are all things that matter to millennials, and so they're having to make these decisions. But everything is such an intense decision because of how important everything really is to us. And I know that's sort of like a blanket statement, but there's just an unprecedented amount of just empowerment and sense of ownership that millennials feel about everything that they do. And when you copy that over to the workplace and you leverage that as a business owner, you have a team that'll work for you for a long time, happily, and at their greatest ability, not counting down the hours to 5 o'clock so they can go to happy hour, although that will be a great part of the day as well. But
not a bad thing.
So, yeah, but it's great to know that you're in a place where, I would love to talk more to people that are like, no, I love my job, and as much as I'm also loving this whole entrepreneurship thing that's going on with not just our demographic, but a lot of the United States even. People that are just happy with their job because they do feel that sense of ownership, and they think, this would be better than me trying to do it on my own. I get to do all the things I love to do. I feel a sense of ownership. They give me the right sort of feedback that I need to know that I'm doing a good job, so that I can feel that sense of ownership, and it's a good blend all the way across.
Yeah. You bring up a good point where it is about the empowerment. It's about the advocacy. What better advocate for your brand than your own employees? And Brian Fanzo, iSocialFans on the Twitters, is the biggest proponent of that. And sometimes it's like we focus on, well, we want to marry old school and new school, and which mindset needs to conform. Well, no one needs to conform. You need to compromise, but you need to understand that this is how it works, and it works best. Mm-hmm. I have a user question. Hold on, let me look at it. Let me see what it is here. So because we talked about video, Kathy Hackle, she asked if Chris McCoolin and Savvy Sexy Social are using Periscope or Meerkat at all. And because you're both using video, that's why I'm asking the question. So are you, either one of you, involved in live stream at all? Chris, I know you have dabbled a little bit.
Not yet, no.
No, I dabble? Not at all. Okay, great.
Dabble means
no. Like, I've done it like for my personal self. For my personal self. But for the yo-yo industry, yo-yoers aren't on Twitter. Like maybe 0.5% of them are. And they're not as active on Twitter. They're on Instagram. They're on Facebook. You know, and then there's a small population on Snapchat too. But it's all been Facebook, it's all been Instagram. So if we wanted to adopt Meerkat and Periscope, then we'd have to really drive the traffic there. And we did that with Instagram. Like we were the first yo-yo company to adopt Instagram. Like it was just individuals before, but we were like, you know, the first brand to start using it. So we had, you know, we drove the traffic from Facebook to Instagram. And that really helped develop our story there. But we haven't really jumped on Meerkat and Periscope yet. And that's going to be something I think I'm going to start using more for like contests and stuff, because we're so spread out. It would just be like me talking to these kids, but like these kids, they want to interact with our team members. So then we have to work on like some more like, I guess, employee advocacy more for our team members to try to, you know, talk them into adopting Meerkat and Periscope, because those are, you know, who people want to see.
Well, now your demographic really is very young, right? We're talking like 16 to 21, correct?
It's
lower.
11 to like 24.
So we're actually out of the millennials at that point. We're dealing with what, Gen Z, is it?
Yeah.
Is that what they're called now?
I think so. Yeah.
So that's interesting. I mean, that's an interesting shift. How, as millennials, we're looking at, you know, Meerkat, Periscope. We want here and now, and these kids are looking at here and now is already too late. I want it yesterday. I mean, I want it like before I even think about it. So that's crazy. I mean, that's insane. Amy, what about yourself? Are you dabbling in either?
Well, I think it was. Sorry, I'm gonna have some sirens behind me. We keep it dirty here. So
dirty. In the dirty Columbus.
It's like right when you asked me, like, ah. Okay. So what's funny is that I did jump on Meerkat. I think that the huge win with these things is that they are tied into an existing social network, because I think we're all just tired of hearing that there's a fad social network we all have to join, and we're not really excited about growing a whole another network of people or going somewhere and not having anybody to talk to. So that was what was really compelling to me. So, and of course, getting people on a live atmosphere is so compelling as a brand, when you can get people to, especially when this stuff's not even going to be published later, unless you intentionally do that. It's not like there's an archive of places you can go and watch all these live streams. It compels people to show up live, and that's a really strong thing, especially in the marketing industry. Getting people to show up live can move a lot of needles. So I love that about it. So I have been dabbling with Meerkat. I think Periscope is pretty, but I think they're just giving you too much when you log into the app, and it's like, who are these people? I don't want to watch this. So I like Meerkat, even though it's not as pretty. It's very cut and dry, and that makes it a little bit more fun. Also, in terms of Savvy Sexy Social, I did turn on the camera once, just when I do film all my videos on Mondays. So I turned on the camera when I was sort of setting up my camera equipment, and just saying, like, here's the camera, here's where I put an LED, you know, just give people a little bit of a behind the scenes, and that was kind of fun. Haven't gotten more serious than that, but I have to say the biggest success for Meerkat came while I was at Social Media Marketing World, bowling at 1 o'clock in the morning. We decided to broadcast the bowling for an hour, and Shaquille O'Neal showed up because Meerkat suggested it as something to watch, and he had just joined Meerkat at that moment, because he was just looking for things, and he's bet me $20 I couldn't bowl a strike, but I was drunk and not paying attention, so I was just meerkatting and not watching the chat. It's actually kind of hilarious. I downloaded that one for sure because it was pretty funny, but
those are usually the best meerkats, is when you're drunk. I know my best meerkat was.
And that's the problem with where our generation is going to be in the future.
Yeah. The future of our world is here right now.
It's like, it was so cool, except like maybe it wouldn't be that cool if like Shaquille O'Neal didn't show up and it ends up being a mockery later. But no, I think it worked out really well, and I bowled a strike, so Shaquille O'Neal owes me $20.
Boom. All right, so call him out on it.
Yeah.
Amy,
so awesome.
this question's for you, Amy. It's from Cheval. Cheval asks, how many times should you post videos on YouTube?
Hello, Cheval. It's good to see you. It's a dear friend of mine in the YouTube comments and Twitter. I would suggest if you are starting a presence of sharing information for your target demographic, we're not talking about comedy, sketches, stuff like that. If we're talking about in a business marketing capacity, I would suggest looking at a once a week schedule. But you have to do what's feasible for you. Again, I don't want you to scale back. I'd rather you scale up. But a once a week schedule is a really great way to get an engaged audience to just understand that you're a reliable source and that you're going to be posting regularly. They just kind of want that stuff in the beginning. Especially what's hard is when you don't have an audience in the beginning, you just need to be building your archive at that point so that when you do get to a tipping point, maybe not a major tipping point, but a point of somewhat critical mass when people are like, oh, I'm going to go check you out, and you actually have been doing the work and there actually are other episodes to go back and watch, that's what's really important. It's about building the archive and showing that you're a reliable source. So show up, do what you say you're going to do, and you'll be fine.
Show up. I mean, you have such great points, and I think we could probably have an entire.
Yeah. Oh yes, we can.
And actually, you are doing a session in New York City, right? I think.
Yeah. We're actually doing one of my workshops. I've been on tour this lovely month of April doing Savvy Sexy Social Live. So we'll be in New York City next weekend, April 25th. And it's a full-day workshop, video content marketing strategy build out. You get there, you create your strategy, you create your editorial calendar, and you actually make a video. And I'm actually going to have Subi Zimmerman, a friend of Brian's as well, and she's going to be talking about Instagram. So there's like an additional feature about how you can promote your video content on Instagram as well.
Very, very cool. Now that is something, if you're in the New York City area, April 25th, it's a Saturday, all-day event. Amy will drop the link in a little later at some point during the show.
Yeah, and I'll throw out a discount code to. I mean, like, I can't believe this Twitter chat. Like, I've never seen such an awesome group of people talking during this sort of format. So it's so cool. So just use MCEO Talk, and I'll give you guys 20% off if you want to come. It'd be awesome.
20% off. We're gonna tweet that right now. 20% off for all.
Yeah, I better create it.
Oh yeah, you should probably do that for all MCEO Talk participants.
Yeah.
That is cool. Cheval says thank you. He definitely got some value out of that question.
Good.
So let's kind of jump back into our millennial discussion. And we'll jump around here. We're just talking. We're just three pals. We're the three best friends that anyone could have.
Obviously,
Speaking of hangovers and alcohol, so
yeah.
Chris, I'm going to ask you this, but it kind of goes back to the previous question we asked about the mindset, but let's talk about what is more adaptable and what do you see as going forward or already here. Which mindset is something that is more adaptable or flexible to work with one another? The old school mentality, I personally, is that the one that is flexible and it works with people, or is it really that millennial mindset? And why? Why do you feel the millennial mindset is flexible, adaptable to new forms of spreading their word,
or even just it's tough because I worked in the oil industry for 9 years, so I was old school mentality for so long, and having to hop over to new school where it was more natural for me. But yeah, new schools has been way more the new school millennial mentality, it's been way easier to adapt to for me because it's been a lot more natural. Just because my own personal values with feeling included, feeling appreciated, and not doing the work just for getting paid. I want to do the work because I want to be part of something awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And the generation I'm working with, they all want that too. So it's been really easy to kind of hop into that. And even when I worked in the oil industry, it was all the older generation, so I was super intimidated hopping into it. It was it was old guys club. So going into the office of of the CEO is just like, and it's just you have no idea what he does. Like you have no idea what they do at all, and I don't know. It's just way more natural right now to be working with.
But going forward with like
this generation.
Yeah, with that generation. So you would say, and obviously I think, Cody Stevenson made a good point on the chat, and he said that millennials are open-minded. They can really go out there and work with other people, whereas some of the older generations are kind of like, yeah, we don't want to work with anybody but people that think like us.
Totally.
So, and Amy, I guess we can kind of throw that question out to you, Amy, too. Like, what are your thoughts on it? Who's adapting to video? Who's adapting to these new platforms, and who isn't? And where do you feel, in 5 years, who's going to end up coming out on top? Because right now, I still feel that millennials, not necessarily, and I say millennials, let's just people with millennial mindset, they're not necessarily like, they may not be the leaders yet. Let's face it, a lot of the C-suite, a lot of people that are the leaders of companies are still in that old school mindset. At what point do you think millennials will break through? People with this open mindset are going to break through and become the leaders of our world, our brands.
Well, I think social media and technology has really sort of affected this a lot all the way across the board, millennials all the way to C-suite, no matter who's in the C-suite, right? So, I mean, the question really isn't, who's adapting to video. The question's like, what does adapt mean to you? Because like a lot of people come to me and they're like, okay, yeah, we got to do social media, no, we got to do like video and stuff. And it's like they're so unclear on like what that actually means. They just know what the rest of the world is telling them is hot right now, or what they need to be doing, or where people are having conversations. So that's a good thing, because I think that means that within the company, the millennials are being heard, because they are communicating that to the C-suite, and they're saying like, we're targeting these people and this is where they are, and we're not doing that. And I think that at some point that message does get across when, somebody in a C-suite position is hearing it from a source that they trust as well. Because again, old school mentality, you probably don't think that your employees are as smart as you are, even though you should be employing people that are smarter than you. So that's something to keep in mind. I think we're being heard. It's just a matter of who everyone's authority is, and when it resonates, and then where it's going to go from there.
And along those lines, because you have that consultative mindset, so you're very much a consultant of video. School us. Take the stage for a second, for a minute, for a few minutes, and how would you consult a client? Kind of same question I asked Chris, but in a different way. How would you consult a client to move towards this adaptive mindset? Or I guess your question is, what is it? What is adapting? But tell us how you would go about that process. Because there's a lot of us that are in marketing here. So how can they go to their clients, in their company, within their brand, and say, hey, this is how we can adapt it to? Because it's very difficult, and I've had so many conversations lately where people come to me and say, well, I don't know how to go to my boss and suggest something. I don't know how to suggest this because they shut me down. So how do you bridge the gap?
I think there's a somewhat new school conversation that's also understood in the old school, and I think that's SEO. And I think that most companies know that like SEO is what they need. We need to rank in search. We need to be on the front page of Google. And you are 53 times more likely to show up on the front page of Google for a result if the result is a YouTube video, because Google is trying to diversify that front page. So usually when I'm taking on a client and I'm talking about content and how are we going to build out a YouTube strategy, first you have to rip them out of the mindset that the videos are going to be about their product, because they're not. You have to approach this as your customer doesn't know what your product is yet. They don't even know they need it. They don't even know they need that yo-yo. Why do they need that yo-yo? Who knows, right? But what are they thinking about? What are they obsessed with? What are they excited about? Who are they excited about? What are those things that they are looking for? What is Googleable? So if you're trying to give me some arbitrary title of a video of God knows what, my answer is usually, are people Googling that? Are you targeting people, and are they Googling that? Like, that is what this comes down to. It can get better than that. The content can be more creative than that. But at the bottom level, just going all the way up, are people searching for that kind of content that you want to be an authority in that will make people think that they need to buy your product, bottom line. And you start there, and you're on your way to compromising that conversation of, okay, well, here's how we can do this. We can do this in a number of ways. We can create just written blog content. That's a great way to do it. We're not going to do it the way that everybody that's an SEO expert trying to call you on the phone and say, we'll do this for you for $10,000 and it'll be great sort of mentality. Good content ranks well in search, period. And when you create video content that is good and touches on the pain points and struggles and big importances of your target audience, period, it's going to do well. So that's where I think you start to bring this conversation to a happy place with all these demographics and mindsets, is where is the SEO value in what we're doing other than just pumping our website full of keywords? How can we talk about things that actually matter to the people that are going to buy our stuff?
Yeah. At MozCon last year, Will Reynolds brought up search user experience. So it's like SUX. And I just love, like, that's the future of SEO basically. It's the search experience. It's, you know, it's how you write your page titles. It's how you write your meta descriptions. And having, you know, those social channels showing up in the right time, the right place. Like, it's so important. Totally.
Yeah. And Amy, you brought up a good point. And well, actually, Chris, that was something I was thinking too. How it's kind of shifted from SEO to user experience optimization, and how do we optimize the user experience? But Amy, I'm curious because you made the comment about YouTube being or helping the ranks. What have you, if you have any specific numbers? I know we haven't discussed anything, so I'm throwing it out at you. Do you have specific numbers on what YouTube can do for brands, for personal brand, for anything like that? What, by using YouTube, how can that help?
Well, that was a pretty major one, right? Google wants to make good on their investment in YouTube, so they're going to push your content to the front page of Google if it's relevant. But also, YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world because
that's the one I was going for.
Because none of us really like to read. Let's just be real about it. So we go to the visual network to get the information we want. And the beautiful thing about that is you can show up on the front page of YouTube search immediately with the right copy. But you've got to keep the audience reeled in, or you're going to start to derank yourself. And that takes good audience retention, reeling people in, keeping them on the video, and not losing them at the average 8-second mark that people decide to click out of a YouTube video. If you are showing them at the beginning, you're going to get to your point, you're going to make them happy, you're going to give them the answer they were hoping for when they made that search in the first place, they'll stay for a good duration. You want to shoot for an audience retention of maybe 50%. That would be really good. If people are watching half your video, you're doing pretty good. They remember who you are. You're going to get people that stay for the whole thing. You're going to get people who don't. But if you're losing a big percentage, and there's a great metric in YouTube that'll show you, here's your audience retention. If it's dropping down early and not slowly throughout the video, you're in trouble. Your channel's going to suffer in search. But that's a pretty big one. I mean, that's a big reason to be on YouTube, is just how organically easy it is to be found if you've got all your copy in the right place.
And do either one of you, do you feel that YouTube is an easy sell to that older mindset, that older? I mean, I don't think it is, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on why.
I will comment on that just because it's 2015 and people are coming to me right now and saying, "Oh man, you're on the right track because video is hot right now." Like, video is hot right now? Like, no, video was hot in 2008, and you're just figuring it out, and I'm ahead of the curve. So, I mean, I'm just saying, right? So, to me, going to the C-suite in 2015 and saying we need to do a YouTube campaign, easy. Getting the resources and the actual plan that's worth doing, more difficult. YouTube is the OG. The problem now is I want to do a campaign on Snapchat. I want to do a video campaign on Vessel. These are the networks that are no one knows and doesn't have the big name of Google behind it to get excited about. For somebody that's outside of the demographic of social media, is ready to take a chance on it, and is just looking for a good pitch, YouTube and Facebook are the OGs. At this point, yeah, those are the two that you're probably going to get a good reception from, in my opinion.
Yeah. That was those are such knowledge bombs. I hope someone's quoting that somewhere on our.
I just want to notate Steve
awesome.
Barrow saying video is hot right now is kind of like saying this is the year of mobile. Thank you very much. That's the other prime example. This is the year of mobile. Oh my god.
Is that Chris Barrows? So Chris Barrows was a guest last week, and he's a very good friend of mine.
God. That's a great tweet.
Chris will drop in, and you know Chris McCool, and you know him, so he is hysterical.
He's brilliant.
I have a question for both of you from the audience. Audience question time. What dynamic is having the biggest impact on millennials' different mindset? Is it social media, or is it something else? And that is from Craig Enthusiast.
Wait, what is the question?
So the question is, what is having the impact? What is kind of creating that millennial mindset? Is it just, hey, we were born between the year 1981 and 1990, and we have this different mindset? Or is social media really driving that different mindset? What do you think? If it's not social media, what is it that's driving that mindset?
That's actually a pretty decent point. I mean, I think maybe feeling a sense of ownership comes from seeing a lot of accomplishments on social media, because we like to share the good news online, and then there are the people that share the bad news. I don't know why, but I think that's definitely a good point, that social media could certainly be impacting that mindset. And again, like, millennials is just the term of today, right? And most of the time, if you talk to anybody and say they're talking about a millennial, they don't even know what they're talking about. They're probably calling a 12-year-old a millennial, and they really have no idea. But yeah, I think millennial mindset, it has a lot to do with where we are in technology today. I don't know if it's social specifically, but I think technology has a lot to do with it, because it's making so many things possible, and that spurs that sense of ownership piece that I think is becoming more important.
Chris, agree, disagree, different points on that subject?
I think it's Brian Fanzo is just making millennials coming up all the time.
Brian Fanzo is definitely.
This is all Brian's fault. Why are we here?
I would have never like. I don't know.
It's Brian Fanzo's
This is the first time I've really even. Up until I met Brian Fanzo is when I've actually had the conversations around millennials. Like before,
yeah.
Like, it's just been really exciting, and the work he's putting in as a change evangelist for.
He's definitely a change evangelist.
Millennials.
Absolutely, yeah. And to me, this question is very much a cart and the horse. This is how I look at it. Are we, us, our age range, are we the ones creating social media and making it what it is, or is social media making us? I don't think so. I don't think social media is a reflection of who we are as individuals, who we are as a generation. The social media platforms of today is what's defining our generation, because it's the way we think, it's the way we digest content. I personally don't think, so to answer the question to Craig Enthusiast, I don't think social media is having the big impact. I think we are the ones having the impact on the social media. And that's a whole other discussion on why do we have this mindset. I think there's, we can go back to the boomer generation, how we were raised as kids, and how that. So I'm not going to go there because that's a different topic for a different day. But
no, and you make a good point, because these social media platforms wouldn't be in business if there wasn't a need or a want. So obviously, like, we're certainly shaping what they've become. I just think that they have done their job in spades to show their target audience, the whole world, what's possible. So yeah, I think that's a really good point. Definitely cart and horse thing. I totally agree with that.
Well, let's be real here. Aren't most of these questions, most of these conversations that are driven around millennials kind of cart and horse things? Generations, there's always been generation changes and generation gaps in the workplace. I mean, I'm sure if we go back ages ago, there was guy during the Industrial Revolution that wanted to change something, and what happened? You just break out and you do it. Henry Ford was a pioneer in his day, just like, yes, I am going to say this, Brian Fanzo is the Henry Ford of our day. Boom, someone drop that and quote it. But he's, like you said, driving change. So it's not. I think social media is just, like I said, it's a reflection of what we are as individuals and who we are. So that was, a great question, Craig. I actually, that was pretty thought-provoking. I like that.
For sure.
And we'll take Kristen. I know Kristen's watching, so Kristen, if you're taking more questions, please do. I do have another question for the two lovely folks in front of me, my savvy, sexy, social folks. And it's kind of like the last question, but we've had a lot of questions here, and I also do want to see. So Raphael, who's the CMO of the U.S. Marine Corps, by the way, is in our chat.
What up, Raphael?
Hello.
Ura, correct? I don't even know if I said that right. But
I feel like you may have offended him if it's wrong. So
I don't think I did. How do we get both generations? And this is, again, we've talked about this, but let's just throw it out there and answer it specifically, and then we can kind of take it from there. But how do we get both of these mindsets? I hate to even say generations because it's a mindset, because you can have somebody who's 80 years old who has a mindset of change. How do we get these people to really work together? And what is there a plan? Is there a strategy that goes about that, or do we just kind of let it happen? I know that in workplaces that I've been in, that I've tried to be that change agent, it hasn't gone well all the time. They look at you like you have 15 heads. Like, what are you trying to do? We've always done it this way. And so actually somebody brought it to my attention today. So instead of asking that question, I'm going to throw this out at you, and then you guys tell me what you think. Bree Kelly, Smart Sweet Bree, she brought a great point today in a chat we had, and she said that when you kind of butt heads with a boss who doesn't have the same mentality, or a coworker, whatever it may be, find a way to get them to think the idea was theirs, and you kind of have to suck it up. But is that, like, I don't want to suck it up. I have too much pride. I don't want to suck it up. I don't want to say, hey, it's your idea. It was my idea. What do you guys think about that? Is that the way to do things, or is there a different way of getting people to change their mindset?
I think you always need to know your audience, but I also don't like pandering to people who just want to show up to a job and take a paycheck, and that's why I feel that the mentality of this is how we've always done it is typical. But I don't think it's about giving up credit. I just think the same way that we love credit because we want that sense of ownership. So we have credit in whatever ways we feel like we do, and whatever that is going to be different for everyone. But in the same way that we need that sense of ownership, somebody that may not be in the same mindset they need to feel good about it in a different way. So it's more about just knowing how that works for them, so that you can make all these pieces and parts work together. You do sort of have to be the change agent that even is thinking that way, though. And I don't know, especially if it's like a top-down, I'm going to be the change agent and I want you guys to work together. You guys see things differently, but you both bring in a tremendous amount of value to the table. It just needs to work together. That can be really difficult, but you just have to know who you're talking to, and the better you know that, the better you know the people that are working for you, I think the better you can cater to that.
Chris?
I'm going to send out a link here, but there's a local marketing agency that worked with an instrumentation company in town, and they used like marketing to kind of change the culture within, and a lot of really interesting artwork on the walls, or having monitors and screens and that were sharing what people are working on and what things we're doing, because you have staff that don't even use computers, right? So it's a really interesting
2015 and we're not using computers.
Yeah.
Hey, I just want to let you guys know my dad's been
people in the
selling
workshop.
cars for many years, and he still does not communicate with customers with email. He doesn't. He uses a flip phone. But he still sells. He still sells cars. I mean, his boss, pissed about it, like, is so annoyed that this guy, like, will not adapt. But he has started to understand, like, how some of the sales letters online work. It's just that his one-on-one communication isn't going to happen through email. So his customers have to end up being accustomed to that, I guess, and so does the people that he works with. They have to communicate with him in meetings and one-on-one and on the phone. So, yeah, that's an interesting point.
Yeah,
I'm sending it over right now.
Yeah, send it over and we'll drop it into the chat itself. We actually, Nikki. You dropped. Oh, cool. If you dropped it already,
but I'll.
Yeah, perfect. No, if you
do.
Nikki asked the question. Nikki Fika. She said, "What do you see in future generations when it comes to video and social media?" So, Chris, I'm gonna throw it to you because you're already dealing with that new generation. So, what do you see as like the future of it?
Sorry, one more time.
Yeah. What do you see in future generations when it comes to video and social media? You are living it, my man. You are there. You got the 11-year-olds rocking Snapchat, doing tricks. Amy doesn't do tricks.
It's the instant replies. Like, they all want instant feedback. Like, if I get I'll get a private message from someone, and like a kid from like Czech Republic, and if I don't reply within 15 minutes, I'm getting question marks. Chris, why don't you answer me? I'm just like, they saw that I read it.
This is why I'm not doing that.
Yeah, and then Instagram. I'm getting emails through Instagram. So it's like the future of social media. Like, social media is going to be email. Like, there's not going to be any more email for this generation because they don't use it.
Well, I know I barely. Right now, I'm actually trying to do away with email personally because it's just so ineffective. I mean, it doesn't work. It's not real time enough. But I guess those 11-year-olds clearly can't even wait 5 seconds for a response. Amy, what about do you have an answer to that question from Nikki?
Yeah, I think what's really interesting is because of this sort of one-on-one connection thing that's happening on things like Snapchat and direct messaging, I think we're going to see, I don't know if I like predicting the future, but I do think that we're going to see people valuing their privacy again, especially now that we have a generation that was born on the internet. And, you know, I've talked with my boyfriend and we've talked about, like, well, if we ever have kids, like, you know, how do you feel about posting pictures of them online? Like, people are posting picture after picture after picture about their kid, and it's like that person doesn't even have that control of their brand online. And at some point, it's just going to be such a old school thing that it's like, are they even going to care about it? And they're going to probably want some more privacy. So it's like the people reaching out to Chris want to be heard, but to a very specific person or venue and nothing more. Like, at some point, are we just going to message Southwest Airlines on Snapchat with a quick 15-second video, like, I'm just letting you know that flight attendant was, like, not on her game today and really dropped the ball on my tomato juice, and I just wanted you to know that. But I don't need to publish this to the whole world. I just think privacy and the importance of that, I think we're going to see a change in how important that is to people, and I think we're already starting to see that, and video is just easier, so I think it's just going to be the vehicle for that.
That is such an amazing point. I know that I was on an airline. I was on Delta. I'm just gonna throw Delta out there. It's fine. And I didn't have a great experience with a flight attendant. And I tweeted at them. And I never got a response. So I kept tweeting, and I never got a response. And I was like, I am so annoyed. So it's really a good point because I think we're finding new ways to figure out how to use social media in our daily lives. So, like, I was using it for customer service aspect, and, you know, the same thing that you're talking about there, Amy. But Chris, you're looking at it as ways to engage immediately with people across the world. I mean, Czech Republic, I mean, different time zones, and he's looking for a legit response within seconds. So there's so many different ways. Great points. I don't think I have a question that came in, so I want to. I need Amy to see Chris do some yo-yo tricks.
Let's do it.
Okay.
And I know Raphael wants to see it, so you got to do it for us, Chris. Amy, this is we actually got Chris out of his shell doing this on a late night hangout at like 3 a.m. one night, and so it's actually it's the coolest thing ever. He knows my favorite trick. He's definitely gonna do it.
Oh no, he's frozen. Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
Okay. Is he back?
Yeah.
Okay, good. There you go, Chris. Cool.
Yes.
Like really bad timing that you were freezing at that moment, but it's good now.
Yeah, I can see
And,
this.
and seriously, I want to know if you think that this is monetizable.
What, yo-yo tricks?
If you think this is monetizable on YouTube, what do you think? Look at this. I freaking love this kid. I feel like we need music or something right now.
Yeah, I know. It's like we need
Vin-
like house music or something.
Do I need to bust out some house music? On our third episode of MC No Talk?
If you go to our Facebook page, CYW Canada, I put up a video of a kid hitting himself in the head with a yo-yo. And it got, I think, 2.5 million views.
Wow.
Now that's powerful.
And that's what goes viral in yo-yoing is hitting
And
your-
that's what does well on Facebook video. Is the stuff you don't have to turn the sound on, you don't have to be impacted by it, you just have to notice it, watch it for long enough to give the brand a like or a comment. And hitting yourself with a yo-yo in the head, that's my new example to take on my next presentation about Facebook video.
But we were lucky enough that he was wearing a hat with our logo on it.
Oh my god.
With our logo on it.
That's awesome.
Chris, I'm going to have you, can you play music while you're doing your tricks or something? Or can you just talk?
Yes.
So everyone can see. Yeah, just talk.
Wait, which one was your favorite trick?
The ovaries, he didn't do it yet.
Okay. Hang on.
Just walk us through what you're doing so that we can actually see it. There we go.
I feel like this song is really cliche for what's happening right now.
Pretty cliche, but you know what? Hey,
it really works. That's amazing, Chris.
Chris, you rock. So I had to get you to do that before Raphael left. I wanted to ask one more question because I mean we have Amy here, so let's just ask her a question. Raphael asked it. I need to find it now, but he wants to know if I can find his question. He wants to know, actually to both of you, what's more important to millennials in the workforce? And I think Chris answered this really well earlier. But what's more important to millennials in the workforce, tangible or intangible rewards? You know, money versus purpose. And Chris, because you answered it already, I'll ask it to Amy.
I mean, obviously money is important, but the same reason why I think we're seeing an influx of millennials in Columbus is it's because of affordability. It's also a reason why we have the biggest fashion brands based here is because of affordability of real estate. L Brands, Les Waxner launched all of his companies here, Abercrombie and Fitch, Nationwide Insurance, all these companies are here. So affordability, I think, is important to the millennial because, you know, the paycheck isn't exactly what is the most important thing to them in their work. They want, again, sense of ownership, and to like what they do every day, to be able to wake up every morning and look at themselves in the mirror. And I don't think Money in the Bank does that. It certainly makes life easier to handle, for obvious reasons, but that's not what it is. We're all picking the job that we want in the place that we love and want to be in because that's where we see our life being. And, you know, you don't see your life being with a certain amount of money the way that maybe we thought other generations have thought about it.
On that note, I am going to, because we are right about at that time, I want to thank the two of you. By the way, excellent answer. Chris definitely kind of answered that the same way earlier, but it was just a good to reiterate from both of you.
She said it better. She said it better.
No one said it better. It's
Stop it!
Better. It's just different. Honestly, I need to thank the two of you. Chris is one of my favorite people in life, not just on social media. Amy has become my new video watching addiction. She's got incredible videos. If you haven't seen it, just YouTube Savvy Sexy Social and check them out. I highly recommend you sign up for her How to Create a Professional YouTube Channel course. It's free. You just sign up for the newsletter, which isn't a bad thing when it's quality content. Like Amy said before, good content is always relevant, and it's fantastic. I just signed up today. I know I'm kind of bad, but I was like, I'm having her on the show. I should probably at least watch that video.
You did your homework. I got to give you props for that. Thanks for the plug.
Well, you know what? Shout out to Ben Phillips, Ben Figo on Twitter, because he does watch you a lot, and he was really shouting you out. And you know, shout out to Brian Fanzo, who suggested we have Amy on the show. Great guest. Thank you so much for coming on.
Totally.
Love to have you on again. There's some topics that some people want us to talk about that I think we should. Chris, your story is fantastic. If you don't know Chris McCoolin, follow Chris McCoolin at Chris McCoolin on the Twitters.
And
that definitely. Go ahead.
On Monday, I think it might be Monday, early next week.
Monday next week.
I'm going to be on the Social Pros podcast.
Nice.
With Jay Bear.
That's so funny because Jess Ostroff does a lot of work for Jay, and she's my partner on the Savvy Sexy Social Live Tour.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
awesome.
and Jay, I know Jay really well, and Jess as well. So that's really cool. That's going to be a really good opportunity too. Their podcast is fantastic.
Yeah, like I can't believe how it happened. Like this last 3 months for me have just changed my life. Like working on my personal brand, meeting people like Vincenzo and Carlos and Brian Fanzo and yourself and Brian Kramer. It's been intense, and it's really opening up some doors for me, and I would never imagine I'd be on this podcast. It's just like this yo-yo guy that works out of his house, but we do some cool stuff, we do some really neat stuff, and it's really amazing to get the recognition for that and to have people believing in what I'm doing. So it's
Chris, seriously, the things you are doing are amazing. I am honored to have met you through social media, and now I have another new friend, Amy, here, again, through social media. Social media has taken the world, this big, scary place, and has made it this big, has given us an opportunity to communicate daily with people that we never thought we would have the chance to. And Chris, you just echoed that, or I just echoed your point. People that you never thought you could work with, you're now working with. And again, I am bringing this episode of MCO Talk to a close, but that doesn't mean that it has to be over. We can continue this conversation over on Twitter. For myself and the Millennial CEO team, thank you for joining us here. Thank you for joining us on Twitter. Check us out next week, same place, same time, 9 p.m. Eastern. #MCEO Talk. I love you all. and good night.